Hello, my name is Olurotimi Osha. Today, I want to read from the text of the Perjured Emergency Evaluation Petition by Howard University Professor Jide Iwarere, and also he's a church elder at Foresee Bible Church. Um, I'm going to quickly give the background and just read the text. So, again, everything he wrote was a fabrication. So, on May 13, 2023, I told Jide Iwarere that not to come to my home because he had come to my home after I told him I wouldn't be at home. I told him I wouldn't be at home. He told me he wanted to come and deliver letters, right? A letter from the Department of the Navy, which I said I knew what it was. I said I'd come to his home in a few days. And there was a box I was expecting, and I'd come to his home in a few days. But for some, he's a domineering figure. He kept arguing with me. And, I'm Yoruba, I'm Nigerian, and I'm typically respectful to him. So even though I was respectful to him, so he got angry and dropped the phone on me. Then he called me back again, saying, okay, that he's on his way out and he can come bring this letter to my home, right? Because initially he was asking me to come pick up the letter from his home, that it looks urgent, that I should come to his home. I said, no, I'm not coming, that I'm busy. I can't make it. I'll come in a few days. So he then, he hung up the phone angrily, right? He said, well, that if I don't come now, that he will let me receive letters in his home again. I don't receive letters from his home. The U.S. Mail Postal Office sends mail to him in error, and in this particular case, it was the Department of the Navy, right? This was part of their false flag operation. I've done videos talking about the false flag operation. They intentionally sent this letter to his home, right? Because they were in on a plot, a scheme together with Jide Iwarere, and Jide Iwarere was my emergency contact at work. So I wasn't going to go to his home. I told him not to come to my home because I wouldn't be at home. In any event, um, later on, he knocks on my door and I open the door. I didn't open immediately because I look through my people. At home, I'm always dressed in boxer shorts because I live alone, right? And so I wore my clothes to look decent, opened the door. By the time I opened the door, he'd left. He'd walked all the way to the elevator bank. He was at the elevator bank. And I I genuflected, right? Prostrated, which is what we do in my culture. I'm a decent person. I don't have to do that to Jide Iwarere because we don't come from the same social status, right? My father's was a traditional chief, and he was like a patrician. He was a bank CEO, bank chairman. Jide Iwarere is a gutter snipe. We don't know where he comes from. He's a legitimate person. I mean, from what he told me, I don't know where he really comes from, right? He's the one who knows. But we don't come from the same social strata, so I don't have to prostrate to him. But I do it out of respect, right? Because just because I'm a decent person. So I prostrated. I said no words. He waved at me. I prostrated. He waved. He smiled. He left. There's CCTV that captured that interaction, right? I said no words to him at all. This was May 13, 2023. Nothing was said. He left letters at my doorpost. I picked them up, went back in. And I called him and just told him that, okay, next time, how did he get into my building? He said he piggybacked. He saw someone coming in and he piggybacked. My building is a secure building, locked 24/7. Uh, you either use an intercom to buzz someone in or you have to go out directly and open the door for them. It's a violation of building policy and also trespassing in Maryland to do what he did. I didn't want him to come. So I told him next time I have to tell him not to come to my home. He needs to respect me, right? So I have a right to draw boundaries for him. This was what I let him know. And then he starts stammering. He's a stammerer. He starts stuttering because he was shocked because he thought I was disrespecting him. I dropped the phone on him. His wife calls me back. His wife has um, uh, Greenbelt Police in 2018. Uh, released a missing person report on her, that she went missing, and they indicated that she appears to be in the early stages of Alzheimer's. For sure, I know because I've interacted with her and I lived with them briefly between 2013, around 2013, and I knew from her conduct and what she told me, I saw that she has some form of dementia, right? She has some form of dementia, but they were hiding it, and this was part of something else again that he was really agitated about. Because I told my mother when I found the missing persons report, and he hid it from my mother. In Nigeria. He tried to hide it from the family in Nigeria. Um, so that was another reason, his incentive to try and discredit me, to try and make it seem like, okay, this guy has some kind of crazy stuff. He'd never said anything like that before. There was never any indication. I'm a middle-aged man. At that time, I was an independent person living on my own. I had a new position, new job, everything, six figures. I told him May 11th. I have the offer letter. I'm going to read that as well, today. So I hung up the phone on him. I hung up the phone on him when he was arguing. Then his wife called, right? And, she was being abusive, right? She's very abusive. And I understood that it was one, she suffers Stockholm syndrome and battered woman's syndrome. I've seen him assault her, right? He's assaulted her. He abused his children. So he's a violent man, but he hides it, right? He wears a mask outside because he's a coward, but he's a violent man in his home, right? He can't do it with me, right? This was what I was letting him know. So he used his crooked judge, Judge B.B. Berry, and the crooked Montgomery County Police filed this perjured emergency petition to try and retaliate, to try and use his bullying methods, right, to harass me. But the only thing is, he also planned to have me killed through this emergency evaluation petition. One out of every four people that are EAPed in the state of Maryland get killed. That number multiplies, right, when it's for black men to almost 70%, about 60 to 70% of black men that are EAPed in Maryland are killed. So, so that was something else he was plotting, because he could have come with them. That's the advice typically is that when somebody petitions a family member, they should be present, so it relaxes the person. I'd never been EAPed before in my life. There was no basis for it, so it was a manufactured EAP. So that's what you also call a swatting. So they created a false emergency, and he did it with Montgomery County police officers. So he returned on May 14th, the next day. So this is somebody I just told, I don't want you to come to my home, right? I, drew a boundary, made it clear, I don't want you to come to my home. Under the law, he'd be trespassing if he reappears. But apparently this was something I learned later on. I didn't know it at the time, and I don't know how truthful this is. He claimed later on, after the swatting, after I was in the hospital, after everything, he said when he came back to my home on May 14, there were police crisis team outside, the police, but they said he said he went to report me to the police. So I was wondering, you went to report me to the police for what? And I said, I don't want you to come to my home. He must be crazy. So he said the police told him they couldn't come in with me, right? And they couldn't come in with me because I hadn't committed a crime and they didn't want to be sued. He actually told me all of this, right? That they could be sued. This was all the stuff he told me. So he came alone, and then I didn't know Germa Shumi, a neighbor, and another young man were on the side. Because I was like looking at him, that I can't believe, because I got a knock on the door. I was like, I can't believe this guy I just told I don't want him to come to my home. He's here again. So when I opened the door, he said he looked agitated, angry. He looks like a madman. He's tall, this big head, and he stammers. So before he can get a word out, he clenches his teeth, right, very tightly, so he can speak. He's a stutterer, and so you have to be patient with him to understand what he's saying. If you go and look at his student surveys, they say he's inarticulate, he's incoherent, right? So I didn't know sometimes when people feel abused by others, they become abusive themselves. And I think that's the case of Jide Iwarere. He has deep psychological issues because what he did, it shows he's a madman. He's a lunatic, right? And he's masking it. It's taken 3 years, but the truth will come out eventually, right? Um, so he says he said he wanted to take me to go and eat food. That was what he said, to go and eat food. It was bizarre. I told him I have food in my home. Thank you. So I was patient with him. Then eventually, uh, he ends up assaulting me, saying he wants to go and take me to see a psychiatrist. Him and then some other guy, they grabbed me, they assault me, and I screamed that, oh my God, So when I screamed, uh, he fled. I said, you can't do this, because they were actually going to kidnap me, assaulted me, grabbed me. So um, one of them dropped the phone in the hallway. The phone had the timer was on, large phone. So, it was all staged. I realized it was all staged, but I was shocked. I was shaken at my God because I couldn't believe it. I'm not a violent person, and that had never happened to me before. I was just assaulted by Jide Iwarere. Then he grabbed me. Like they were actually literally going to come and kidnap me. They were trying to kidnap me. He was saying he wanted to take me to go and see a psychiatrist. But the way he started was he thinks my job is stressing me out. I'm like, I'm fine. So I thought he was being sincere, because I'm a polite person. I'm a pleasant person. I was like trying to talk to him, but no, I'm fine. Then eventually when he said the psychiatrist thing and I tried to turn off, then, you know, so eventually, after they'd assaulted me, I was shaking because I'd been on the phone with my friend, and my friend heard the skirmish. So my neighbor came out in 503. Then I was telling my friend what happened. I told my friend what happened, and my friend said, call the police. My friend said, call the police, that's assault. My neighbor picked up the phone, right? My neighbor picked up the phone, and, so I went back in. Then later on, I got a knock on the door. Two police officers were out there. So I called the cops, 911. That was what I thought. I called the cops, but all of this was just so, I was still like shocked. I was like, what the heck just happened? These people just came to assault me. This old man just assaulted me. I was shocked that this guy's lost his mind, you know. And that was the other thing. I was like, this guy is going crazy because he's been acting erratic. There are things he did. He's been acting erratic. So I come out and you know the I called my friend immediately again, and she spoke with the male police officer. His name is Sergeant Charles Drenkwitz. So he looked stunned. I identified myself. And there was a female who was rude to me. And, when she was rude, I just decided to go back. I was like, look, don't disrespect me, right? Please don't disrespect me, right? So I go back in and let it go because I was like, okay, police matter, this guy, he's going to get arrested because that was assault. He's going to go to prison, right? He's going to go to jail because he just assaulted me and they just attempted kidnapping. Now that's a crime. That was what was on my mind. I was like, okay, I don't want him to go to jail. That was all what was on my mind at the time. I went back in and I let it go. That okay, I don't want this old man to go to jail. What's really going on? So you know, so that was what happened. May 14. That was actually what happened, right? Um, he, Shumi, and one other guy, they just grabbed me, they assaulted me, struck me. Um, that was that. He dropped the phone. He fled. Nothing. I didn't kidnap anybody. I didn't, I was just stunned. It was all happened in front of my door, right? I was a victim, right? That's why I called the police, right? And I was just shocked that, what the heck just happened, right? By the way, I have somebody I know who lives on my floor, right? Because it was quick. It was something quick and everything. But, you know, that was May 14th. So now let me get into it. Uh, this is the EAP that apparently he now went to file, right? He went to file an emergency petition, which Judge BBM Berry would approve on May May 14, that same day, right? It was a Sunday, right? And there was a lot going on that Sunday. That was the same day that my friend, who, because my friend was stressed out because one, she told me that a colleague had died, right? A colleague who used to sit next to me at work, right? We worked together with Kobe, and she was like, that person sat next to me. She was a white woman, and she was very pleasant. And she died. She had a sudden heart attack at work. She was at the hospital, so she was checking on her, and I think she just said that she died later on or something. She told me that she died. So all of this happened on May 14th. My friend noticed nothing, right, with me because I was talking to my friend. I was talking to my friend. My friend noticed nothing, right? So the only bizarre thing was this crazy guy. No hallucination. Nobody noticed anything. I was at the gym. May 15th, the next day, I went to the gym. I actually went to Jide Iwarere's house. I bought honey and lemon Vicks. I decided to buy for his wife because I wanted to check, that okay, is this guy okay? Is he all right? So when I went to his home, he looked agitated. He ran, he looked paranoid, agitated. He's an old man. He's in his 80s. He's an octogenarian, although he misrepresents his age as being in his 70s. So I'm like, okay, this guy is old. And he'd been saying many strange things, right? He'd been saying many strange things. And I just took it that, okay, it's part of his aging, right? Um, so when I saw him on May 15, he said, well, that's he was just asking me about my job. That's all he was interested in. He didn't ask me anything about my health. He didn't ask me about anything about what was going on. He just asked me about my job. That was it. When we went out, I made sure because I knew there are cameras outside. I positioned us in front of cameras. There are some people, Africans nearby, talking. I asked him to pray for us. So that was evidence. And I went to the gym and I worked out. And there was this crazy old white guy who came and was saying it was by the government. He was stalking me, asking my friends if I'm disturbed. No, I'm cool. I was just looking. My friends were looking at him that, what's wrong with you? I just, thought, okay, these intrusive old white guys who think they, own the world. It was clear that something was awry, but I expected, okay, it was from work, but I was calm, right? Something that they found out from the hospital and people around was like, I don't buckle under pressure. I'm calm. I keep a cool head, right? It's been 3 years. I'm calm. It's a blessing from God. I'm calm, right? So I don't, and there are people who I don't get agitated. I don't, you know. So this video has gotten longer than I expected. So I've gotten up to the point where I was assaulted by Jide Iwarere and Gemo Shumi, and um, they fled. I recorded them on my phone as they were fleeing. My neighbor picked up the phone that one of them dropped in the hallway. So you can see I was the victim. My friend told me, call the police. I called the police. They assaulted me. My friend spoke with the police, one of them, Sergeant Charles Drengwitz, for almost 10 minutes, right? And I spoke talking with the other one, but the other one was rude to me, and I just let it go. And she just goes, oh, we're here to help you. Because, she looked at me in a strange way when I told her, hey, don't disrespect me. Because I'd just been assaulted. And I called them to come to help as for help. This had never happened before. I had just been assaulted. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why they came to assault me. It was strange. Jide Iwarere had gone crazy. That was just that this guy's nuts. He just came and he assaulted him, and these neighbors came and they wanted to kidnap me. Just assaulted me in my home. This is crazy that. So, but the cop was now acting weird and everything. Apparently, the reason she was acting weird was because she was probably one of the members of the crisis team, or she knew there was a crisis team outside. So they pretended they were here on a call. They would misrepresent the facts, the data, everything that happened, right? Sergeant Charles Drengwitz would end up filing a false incident report because he would go and speak with the Gurmashumi. The Gurmashumi, they would tell a lie. Jide Iwarere would say, oh, that I have a mental illness. They didn't tell me that there was a crisis team outside. The crisis team never came up to me. It was a white female cop who was rude to me, right? If I had been going through a crisis, the police are authorized. In Maryland, they have the power to arrest somebody they think is going through a mental health crisis and is dangerous. They didn't arrest me. They left, right? They didn't arrest me. They didn't say anything about crisis. In Sergeant Charles Drengwitz's report, even though he wrote a false report saying I he lied, saying I assaulted the Gurmashumi and stole his phone. That was defamation. Nobody charged me with that. I'm not charged with that. I'm not charged with assaulting anybody. The assaulted claim happened was on May 16 against the police who ostensibly came to deliver an EAP. They didn't have any EAP, right? They fabricated what happened. The body cam shows that they lied, right? The Surgeon Charles Drengwitz, in his report, he said, I didn't say that he spoke with me. I didn't say anything suicidal or anything homicidal. He didn't indicate that he spoke with my friend because that's evidence that it was staged, that he was part of the scheme, because he should have noted that he spoke with my friend. My friend told the state attorney eventually, wrote it down. By the way, Jide Iwarere and Gurmashumi were eventually charged by the state of Maryland after I got out, but the state attorney keeps suppressing it, right? Because they know they staged the whole thing. They set them up to it, right? It's funny, if Jide Iwarere, in the petition I'm going to read, if the police claimed that I threatened to shoot him, if Jide Iwarere really told the police that I threatened to shoot him, why did the police have him risk his life and come to me? They believed I had a gun and I was dangerous. Why did they let Jide Iwarere come back to me alone with my neighbors and without the police coming themselves? They would have put his life at risk because they made it all up. They fabricated the whole thing. They lied. They lied, right? I know the Department of the Navy was really the one that were behind the whole thing. It was a false flag operation. And they just got Jide Iwarere to do the whole thing. That was why he was the one they sent this unauthorized termination letter to, or whatever it is. Termination letter, authorized or not authorized. I had another job. The job in the Navy is not going to make or break me, right? I would file the complaint against them anyway. I'll sue them. So it's not going to do anything to me, right? As of that time, I owned a magazine. Many things I was doing, many projects. I had another job. I'll read the offer letter. I already had another job at the Pentagon. I doubled what they had given me before, right? So I didn't make anything. And Jide Iwarere knew that because I told him. So he lied. I'm going to read what he wrote, right? It was the Navy that staged this whole thing. They used Jide Iwarere, who was my emergency contact at work. He was happy to oblige them because he was jealous. He wanted to sabotage my career. He couldn't believe, that I was making it, how well I was making it in America. When I told him and his wife that I got this John S. McCain Strategic Defense Fellow, he couldn't believe it. He was actually stating, his wife was saying, that I wasn't born here, so I can't have that job. She's so stupid. I'm a naturalized citizen. The job they even admit people with permanent residency. I'm a naturalized citizen. She believes because her kids are born here that this was what she was telling me when I told her I got the McCain Fellowship. She was like, that at the Department of Defense, right? She was saying no, that her kids have priority over me, have precedence over me in America because they were born here. I just smiled, I laughed it off. It doesn't affect me. I know she has dementia. I mean, even if she didn't have dementia, it doesn't affect me. What other people say, I don't, those things don't bother me. In any event, I'll stop this video here so that I can read the EAP. My name is Olorotimi Osha. I'll keep you posted.